personal businesses. Instead, every worker and person will be a direct capital owner. Property and businesses are to be kept in the name of the owner, keeping them responsible for taxes and other expenses. However, control of the business is in the hands of the community, which means government. In other words, Tom, they're going to use our creative abilities, our hard work, to work for the government. Is that really what that's saying?
Well, it just means that government is controlling every aspect of our lives, every decision that we can make about what kind of jobs we could have or whether we can start a business or not. There are so many rules and regulations. You have to jump through all these hoops. Most people get discouraged before you even try, to get through it. They've made it impossible to do. They will totally deny any of this as they go through it, saying, no, we're just trying to make sure everything's equitable. We're just trying to make sure everything runs smoothly. But we are finding daily, I am getting calls from people who are becoming victims of this system and the outrageous things that government is forcing them to do. I'll just give you one tiny example here. I had a lady come in the other day. She bought a piece of property that is laid out in an area designated as a historic area. That's another piece to this pie that they use to justify locking away land. There was a house on this property that had been condemned by the county. And so she made plans. She says, I'll buy the property and I'll tear that house down because the county has deemed it dangerous. It's condemned. Can't use it. County refused to give her a permit to tear down that house because it was a historic area. Something historic happened there. Then, it gets better. Then, when she could not tear it down and she did everything in her power to get a permit to tear it down, then they came to her after denying that and charged her with having a dangerous piece of a house on her property. This is the kind of insanity they're doing, and the reason for that is because they are trying to stop private property ownership and controlling your own property. And this is a long story. It goes into a lot of details as to why. But bottom line is, this is an area, this historic area, where they are not recognizing private property. They're not recognizing property lines. And this woman did not fit the mold of the people they wanted to live there, and so they closed in on her to torture her this way.
And let me say this to our listeners. You can email me right now on air at jsm.org. On air at jsm.org. I will read your question over the air and have Tom answer it for you. And I'm going to ask our people in there to bring me the emails as soon as they come in. Tom, I hope that people's eyes, I want to emphasize though, well, let me finish. I hope that people's eyes are being opened as to what this green movement really is. Because, we have this whole idea of the planet and the environment and the planet destroying itself has already proven to be a hoax. I mean, a big, fat hoax, to say that. So how can they keep promoting this and keep it going?
There is massive amounts of money and political power that has the incentive to keep it going. And of course, all of this has been built over the last 20 years or so on the premise of global warming, that man and our emissions, our carbon emissions and so forth, are causing a warming of the earth, and of course that was the mantra. That was the urgency that we've only, you hear Al Gore say it every year. We've only got another year to go. Every year he said it, for like 10 years, and we're still here. The fact of the matter is that really last year there was a thing called ClimateGate where it was revealed 10 years of documentation of emails back and forth of these people promoting global warming showed they were lying. Showed that they were saying themselves, I can't find the warming. Well, here's the trick I use to hide it, the fact that we can't find the warming. So when that started coming out, the global warming hoax was revealed to the world. I have never seen something collapse so quickly in scientific circles. The UN knows the jig is up on global warming. The scientists know the jig is up on it. But you still have this massive movement that was depending on global warming for their political power and for their money, and they're not giving it up easily. So they continue to try to recoup from that and promote global warming as the problem. But at the same time, they have now begun a new movement in case global warming does not come back as an issue. This is diversity. This has to do with endangered species. It has to do with open space. We have got to protect all this open space. Can't cut down a tree, all that sort of thing. That's the new movement, and it fits right in with them to keep you out of developing out in that urban sprawl area, and that sort of thing. So they're very clever people, and they always come up with a new plan.
Okay, now people always think, well, this is somewhere else. It's not where I live. But in reading all the information I could get my hands on about this, it's in almost every city, town, and village in the United States of America, and they're working through the mayors.
Yeah, literally every single town, every single community, every single piece of land in this country has been targeted, and no one's escaping it. Now, it's at different levels. Some places are completely immersed in it. Other places are just beginning, but they're getting to them. And one way this is spread, one of the organizations that helped write Agenda 21, there's this horde of non-governmental organizations that work out of the United Nations. One of them is called ICLEI, the International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives. ICLEI is an international organization that helped write Agenda 21. In fact, they wrote the chapter in it that talked about how to spread this through the local communities. And once that was done, ICLEI made it its mission to go into communities. Communities pay them dues, so a commission, and they bring in with them training, software, conferences, all kinds of things to set up your community to be a sustainable community. Train your mayor, train his staff, train the city council, so that they're all on the same page here, and basically brainwash them into accepting this. And I asked this question in a talk the other night: how many of your local officials would admit that what they're implementing is communism? And the answer, of course, is none of them would. So the question is this: if they won't do that, then why are they so anxious to go into partnership with an organization that will? Because here is a quote from Harvey Rubin, who was the vice chairman of ICLEI. He said, "Individual rights will have to take a back seat to the collective." If that's not communism, I don't know what it is.
Exactly. Well, what are they saying when you confront them, Tom?
I never heard of Agenda 21. I don't know what you're talking about. This is just a local plan that we have come up with. Yesterday I met with the governor's office. I heard that. I met with the Attorney General's office in Virginia. I heard that. I sat in a meeting with delegates. I sat with over and over and over again. I don't know what you're talking about. This just doesn't exist. Here we have the documents from, starting with Agenda 21 and some back, the Biodiversity Treaty, the Biodiversity Assessment, all those came from the United Nations. In 1993, Bill Clinton issued an executive order that created the President's Council on Sustainable Development. I've got their reports that say exactly the same things that Agenda 21 says. Then we've got a state, in the state of Virginia, in 2007, Virginia passed a regulation that says every single city of a certain size has to put together comprehensive development plans, which is sustainable development. That forces all the local communities to have to put this stuff into place, and ICLEI comes into the community, which comes from the United Nations, and shows them how to do it. But none of them ever heard of ICLEI, none of them ever heard of Agenda 21, none of them ever heard of sustainable development. Gee, nothing going on here. What are you talking about?
Let me ask this. This is Jim, Tom.
Sure.
Are these people telling you the truth? Are they lying? Are they just dumb? Or what's the deal? Do they
It is
really
a
not know?
mixture of all the above.
Okay.
There are those who know exactly what they're doing.
I'm sure of that.
And there are those who are pawns in the game.
Right.
First of all, and let me be charitable here, as charitable as I can be when I'm being lied to like this.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
But,
Yes.
there are people who decide to run for office, for city council, county commissioner, who are good people. And they just want to help. They just want to do something right. And they come in, and as soon as they get into office, the first thing that happens is they're shipped off to national meetings of, you have the National Conference of Mayors, there's a national organization for county commissioners, there's a national organization for city councilmen, there's a the National Conference or the National Governors Association. All elected officials are almost automatically part of these national organizations. What is coming out of these organizations is this agenda. They're even given sample legislation to take home. Then they go home, and they are surrounded in a forest of non-governmental organizations, the Sierra Club, ICLEI, and our local community here, we have the Piedmont Environmental Council, which rules 5 different counties. They have historic preservation organizations. They have people concerned about water purifying. They have people concerned about air. They have people concerned about energy. All these different organizations surround your elected officials, and they can't see the forest for the trees. They can't hear you as an individual saying, wait a minute, these policies are affecting my life, my property. They are surrounded by these people, and so they think that's what government is, because that's what they hear from everywhere, and hence when a nut like me comes along and says, you know what you're really doing, they're saying, gee, I never heard of that before.
But and it's not just you. It's other people that have been sounding the alarm as well. But, it's very difficult to get government officials, to listen to you. It's the same thing as we have dealing with Islam. We see the spin that our government tries to put on Islam, and yet we see the reality of what Islam really is all about. Now, millions upon millions of dollars in stimulus money has gone to these green organizations. And I don't think the American public is aware of how much the government is behind in building these silly little cars they're trying to produce out there that runs right now half gasoline, I think, and half electric. I heard the president yesterday telling someone that asked him a question, well, you may just have to trade your car in. They were concerned about the price of gasoline, and his answer was, well, you just may have to trade your car in. And which I think that's a very cruel, heartless answer to give a citizen of the United States. But do you know exactly how much of the stimulus money, Tom, has gone to fund this green movement?
I don't know exactly, but it's massive. And,
it is.
And there are, just as you're describing with the auto industry, over the last 20 years, it may be longer than that, there have been massive amounts of money that have been paid into the auto industry to do the research to develop these cars. There's no market for them. But that's why the auto industry would have done the research itself if there was a market for them. That's what they've done their whole history. But instead, the government comes in and says, we're going to mandate these things and you're going to do them. Another thing that has happened, this mandatory green light bulb now that you're being forced to use.
Right.
And within 2 years, you will not be able to buy an incandescent light bulb. Do you know who did the lobbying to make that law possible? General Electric, Sylvania, the companies who manufacture incandescent light bulbs were the ones who helped put that legislation through to ban their own product. You know why? Because an incandescent light bulb is about 50 cents, and the new light bulb was about $2 or $3, and it's coming down now. But that's now they have, they can make more money off of it, and that's the And
government and these large businesses are working hand in hand. If the business will work with the government gives special favors to these businesses.
This is the third plank on this. I said about the 3 E's: social equity, ecological integrity, and economic prosperity. Economic prosperity is public-private partnerships between private businesses and the government. And there are actually conservative organizations that are selling these as the way that we get private money and free enterprise involved in keeping taxes down and cost of government down and building the infrastructure. The fact of the matter is These are government-sanctioned monopolies where